everyone, this is the first part of our scientist badge. We are going to make crystals. Here's everything you need. I'm doing mine with scales, but I'll show you that in a minute. You need a cup, some water, some sugar, food colouring, but that's not essential. I'm doing it so that you can see it better on the video. A clean jar, some clean string, a pencil, a small saucepan and something to stir your solution with, a board to put your sugar strand on when you finished it, scissors to cut the string and a cloth in case your saucepan is hot. Okay, let's start. The first thing I'm going to do is measure out some sugar. Now I'm going to do it on the scales as well to give you a better idea of what I'm using. So that's my cup. Just ordinary sugar, about a mugful. It really isn't too scientific. There you go. That comes out 285 grams, thereabouts. If I pour it back into the jug, you can also see in volume it's about 300 mils, or half a pint in old measurements. 300 mils, if you want to do it that way. That's just a different way of doing it. So weight, about 280 grams, and, or a cup. That measures this time. 289 grams, 300 mils by volume, and that is your cup of sugar, which will go carefully into your saucepan. Right, next you need a third of that volume of water. So if we're going to do it by volume, we had 300 mils of sugar, so it's going to be 100 mils of water. Thereabouts. Okay, if we pour that into our cup, not sure how well this will come out on the video, and I've got a funny shaped cup, but you can hopefully see that that is about a third. It's up to about here. Right, water in with the sugar. Go. Very carefully now. Remember, you're using hot things. I'm going to turn the gas on my sugar and water. So we're making a solution because we're going to melt that solid sugar into our water. So it's quite gloopy to start with, and as it warms up, so we're going to stir it around. We're aiming to get this melted. So you keep stirring, keep melting, and while that's happening, I'm going to have a little tidy up because I don't need my scales anymore, and I don't need my cup. Don't need my water. So whether you're cooking or doing science experiments, it's good to clear up as you go. There. Okay, and done. I'm going to turn it off. Use a cloth if you need to. Take it right away from the heat because we don't want it to do any more than that. Now we have to be patient because we need to wait about 10 minutes. So I'm going to set my alarm on my cooker. We literally need to wait for that to cool down again, having boiled it. You can also see, I think, that the liquid has turned clear. Yeah? It's got some bubbles on the top, but it's now a clear liquid. It's not murky like it was when the sugar was dissolving. That tells you that your sugar has completely become soluble. Cool, done. So while we're waiting for that to cool down, we're going to remind ourselves how to tie a clove hitch. Now hopefully you've practiced this. So remember, you need clean string and a pencil or a pen or a skewer, anything that will just sit on top of your jam jar like that. It has to be longer than your jar top is wide. So, clove hitch. This is called the working end. The bit you're working with is the working end. You put your working end over your pencil from the front to the back. Then you go underneath to the right, right hand, right side, over the top of the pencil and to the left. And hold that with your finger. You can clearly see I've made a loop. Right, now you carry on underneath, and then you go back underneath this bit. There, so you poke your working end through that loop. So if you look now, if I turn my pencil this way, sort of got a figure of 8. See that? And on the back, got 2 parallel lines. Figure of 8 and 2 parallel lines. So gently pull both ends. Both ends. You should end up with a knot that's crossed in the middle. So a squished up figure of 8 now. And 2 parallel lines on the back. Now that is a perfect knot to start lots of things. You can start a lashing. So now you would very tightly wind your string around. There you go, there's a lashing. And you could finish it with another clove hitch. So I might just use that method. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we need our string to just dangle down into our sugar solution. It mustn't touch the sides of the jar and it mustn't touch the bottom. So let's just measure that off. And I'm going to chop it about there. Carefully put your scissors somewhere safe. Okay, so now you can see by winding it round, I can also adjust the length of it, and a clove hitch will slide. Okay, so you don't have to do that bit, but you do need it so that it doesn't touch the bottom. Okay, done. Now, so that you can see this experiment a bit better, I'm going to add a little bit of food colouring. This isn't completely necessary, but it will give you coloured crystals. And a really easy way to do this, because I don't want very much, I'm going to dip in a cocktail stick and just drip it. Maybe not. It usually works. Perhaps I've got extra thick food colouring. Oh well. There we go. Have to be careful with this stuff too, because it stains, so don't get it on your cup uniform. There we go, that will do. Lid back on that, just in case I tip it over. throw my stick straight in the bin. Okay, so we've almost had 10 minutes of the sugar solution cooling down. What I want to do now, I'm going to dip the string into this sugar solution. Now bear in mind it is still going to be quite hot. So we are going to dibble it in and use your spoon to push it down. But the aim is to get your string probably easier off of the pencil actually. Or in a wider saucepan. You're going to basically coat your string with sugar solution. Now the reason for that is that it helps the crystals to form. There we go, that's our 10 minutes done. And then we're going to lay this out and let it dry. So you can probably see the sugar solution's soaked into the string. By letting it dry, you're giving the other sugar solution that we're going to put in a moment, you're giving it something to cling to. It needs to grip on. So it's like making something rough so that the sugar solution crystals, the crystals that form, can cling on to something. Alright, so this is cooled down. At this point, I'd like you to get an adult to help you because we're going to pour the sugar solution into the jar. Really, really carefully. And that jar gets quite warm. So you can see that my food colouring has turned the water a bit pinky. I think. Just going to give that a stir round. Make it a bit more pink. Because some of it's stuck to the side of the jar. Okay, I can feel by touching this jar it is still very, very hot. So I think it would be better if you leave it a lot longer before you pour it into the jar. Just let it cool down a bit. So now we leave this until it reaches room temperature. So that's going to be a long wait. But in the meantime, our string will be having the solution dry on it. Once it's dried a bit, it isn't dry at the moment, but once it's dried a bit, dibble it back into your sugar solution and leave it to dry again. Okay, now we're going to wait until that reaches room temperature. Although this solution is still warm, it has cooled down significantly. So I'm just going to show you what happens when the string dries off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip that again, but you can see that something has happened to my sugar solution now that it's cool. It's already starting to set. My string doesn't want to sink anymore. I might have to give it a bit of help. You can just push it down with a fork so that it's down in the middle. And that's it. Now we're going to put that somewhere and leave it until our cub meeting next week. We're going to see what happens to it.